Hello everyone. Today's story time is about getting my wisdom teeth out and the things we learned from that. I will warn you, for anybody who doesn't like graphic descriptions of disgusting mouth things and pain, you probably shouldn't keep watching. As for what I'm wearing on my head, that's from the bottom of a t-shirt. I am making a t-shirt quilt, and I cut off the bottoms of a bunch of t-shirts and I was like, hey, I'm just gonna wrap this around my head and it'll keep my bangs out of my eyes. So cool. And yes, it's the same one as I've worn in 2 other videos because I recorded them just before I recorded this one. Anyway, so I got braces when I was 17 because these 2 teeth were sticking forward and these 2 teeth were back further, and it just kept getting worse, and it made biting off things difficult. Like if I tried to bite into an apple, it just yanked on these two and made the problem even worse. And I really wanted to be able to eat an apple off the core. That was like my main goal. And it seems kind of silly now to go through all that just so I could eat an apple off the core, but every time I eat an apple off the core now, boy, do I enjoy it. But my parents couldn't afford to get me braces. I have siblings who needed braces too, and they couldn't afford to give all of us braces. So I actually ended up paying for it with money I earned babysitting. But I also was still in my parents' insurance, so I only had to pay like half. And because my older sister had gotten braces a lot of years before at the same place, they were nice and gave me a sibling discount. And I got them as soon as I could because I wanted to make sure that I was done with them before my insurance ran out. And I think it would run out the day I turned 19, I want to say. So I actually got them put in the day we went in for the consultation. Well, when I went to get them off, I had to get an x-ray at the last minute. Sorry, I keep looking over at my notes. I had to get an x-ray to check up on how everything changed since the beginning. And they were like, you're gonna need to see an oral surgeon because your wisdom teeth underneath the gums, they're pushing into the other teeth, and if you don't get them out soon, it's gonna ruin all the work we did here. So we scheduled an appointment with an oral surgeon, and when I say we, I mean my mother came with my sister and I because my younger sister needed her wisdom teeth checked. Well, I forgot to mention, when I had braces, I didn't take over-the-counter pain meds when they told me I could. Like, after getting adjustments, they said I was going to be sore for a couple of days, and they said I could take, like, ibuprofen or something like that. But I didn't take anything because none of those have ever worked for me. Like, sometimes you can build up a tolerance to medications. Well, I, started off with a tolerance to everything. No pain medications seemed to help. So I just didn't even try at that point. Anyway, at the oral surgeon, found out that I needed to get all 4 of mine surgically removed. They weren't through the gum or anything yet. They needed to be removed before they could erupt. And my sister needed to get 2 of hers out. So we scheduled our surgeries for the same day. Of course, insurance wasn't going to cover having us put under totally, so we had to just have local anesthetic, which we didn't realize at the time would be a problem. We were just like, well, it'll be kind of... Basically, the biggest issue I had was that I wouldn't have the fun coming out of anesthesia story. So many people seem to have. Anyway, we get to the surgery on the day of, and they decided because I had all 4 that needed to come out, that they would do me first. But to let the numbing agents take full effect, they were going to numb my sister right after numbing me so that it would be in full effect by the time they were done extracting my teeth. So I get the shots, and like, it's definitely painful because, it's a big old needle going into your flesh, but I like to think that I have a decent pain tolerance, and I didn't think it was that bad. Although I have read that people with blue eyes feel pain more than people with other color eyes. I don't know how they know that or how true that is, but that's what I've heard anyway. And I obviously have blue eyes. So I've always kind of thought my pain tolerance must just be, pretty good to be able to not. Well, I do complain a bit, but I hope it's not that bad, my complaining. Anyway, after they numbed me up, went into the other room, numbed my sister up, they kept checking to see how far the numbing had spread and told me to let them know when the tip of my tongue was numb. And it kept not being numb. They kept checking and checking, and they were like, well, it's been long enough, it should be numb by now. And I was like, it's not, I can still feel it. And they were like, well, you're gonna feel pressure, but you're not gonna feel pain. And I'm like, okay, I believe you. And they were like, it'll finish numbing the tip of your tongue after we start. We're just gonna get started. So they just got started. Started on the lower left. And at first, the only pain I was feeling was having the jaw yanked open so much for so long. Because my family kind of has small mouths, and that's part of the problem with our teeth crowding and stuff, because our mouths are small, and I did not hold it against him for yanking my jaw down so much because he had to be able to get his hands in. But it was still very uncomfortable. And at first, it was just like it felt funny that my gum was being pulled apart, and then as he was sawing into the bone to take a chunk off to reach the tooth, blood was spattering on everybody's faces. And I kept apologizing with my mouth open. I don't know, they seemed to be able to understand me, and they were like, yeah, that's okay, it's fine. Anyway, as he started to actually get the tooth out and started digging for that, I started to feel like an ache in the bottom of my jawbone. It was like a headache, but completely concentrated right there. And when he pulled it out, it was like, you know how when you bite down on a chip and the corner jabs into your gum? It was like having that in the part of your gum where you freshly lost a baby tooth. Just like, it hurt. Like, really bad stabbing pain. And while he was digging at it, when I first started to feel the pain, I let them know I needed to say something, and they let me speak, and I was like, it hurts. And the lady who was helping said, no, you're feeling pressure. I'm like, actually, I'm feeling pain. I know the difference between pressure and pain because I'm almost an adult. And she was like, well, of course, it's just your jaw being pulled down that's hurting. And there's nothing we can do about that. And I'm like, no. Actually, I didn't say anything at that point, but in my head, I'm like, no, that's not the only pain it is. But I've gotten better now, but I still am not totally good at speaking up for things when people are sure they're right, especially. Sometimes I will argue if it's important enough to me, but at that point I was just like, you are wrong, but I'm gonna let you keep being wrong for now. So he finished getting that one out, and it definitely hurt, but it wasn't intolerable pain. But after he got that one out and we took a little break, I said, it's definitely actual pain in my jaw. I could feel that. And here's where I give them credit. They were like, you want to stop now and save the rest for another time? Stupid me was like, I don't want to go through all this jaw ache again, so I may as well push through it now and get it over with so that I can just, like, I had it in my head for a while. When I found out that I had to get all my wisdom teeth out at once, they were like, do you want to do one side at a time, top at once and bottom at another time, or do you want to, and I was like, all at once. I just want it all done so I only have one recovery period, because I'm not going to want to be eating solid foods even if I do one side at a time, because I don't know, I just like milkshakes. So I was like, one recovery is fine. So I had it in my head that I was just going to get it all done at once. And at that point, with experiencing that pain, I was like, yes, I definitely want to have all this done at once. I do not want to go through this again. And I don't remember much of the next 3 because it was getting steadily worse. That's the part I remember. It was getting steadily worse for every single one. And I was just like trying to go to my happy place, trying to get out of my body at that point because I just wanted it to be over. And I guess it kind of worked because I don't remember that much of the experience. I just remember pain. Anyway, by the time I get done with that, I was like grinning like a crazy person as I was walking into the waiting room because I was just so relieved that it was actually over, and I couldn't help but smile for some reason. Well, when I got there, I was like, wait, if it was that bad for me, I should warn them because my sister got numbed up right after I did, so if she has the same type of thing, they're going to need to give her extra. So I told them that they were going to probably have to do something extra for her, and they said, and I quote, "We'll take care of it." Okay, all taken care of. I trust them. Even after they were so sure they were right and I was so sure they weren't, I trusted that they were going to take care of it. So then I was like, oh, hey, I want to keep my wisdom teeth. And they were like, oh, actually, we had to prepare the space for your sisters, so we already threw them away. Sorry. And I was like, darn it. But that was my fault because I should have asked before we actually started. But I didn't even think about it until right at that moment. Anyway, I trusted them, and I was just so relieved that mine was over, so I sat down next to my mother and was talking about how it was actually painful, even though it shouldn't have been, and she was like, oh, I can't tell you how long it took for the dentists to understand that I metabolize the drugs super quickly, so they have to give me a lot to even take effect like a normal person, and even then it wears off fast. And I was like, well, at least I come by it honestly. I just hope my sister doesn't take after you. I hope she takes after our dad because he can be out like a light for a long time when he goes in for an operation. So she told me about how now, finally, the doctors that she goes to see regularly, my mother was saying, they know her and they know how it is. So they take all the precautions possible to make sure she doesn't feel pain like usual. But she's got a high pain tolerance too. She's been through so much. Anyway, I was just like, yeah, I trust that I warned them, so they'll take care of my sister like they said they would. And then she walked out of the room, heading into the waiting room, and her face is all red, and you can tell she's been crying. And I'm like, what happened? They didn't take care of her. They just started as soon as they got in there. Didn't give her anything else, didn't even check. They just started sawing her bone open. And she started crying because it was very painful. And they kept going for a little bit before they even were like, oh, shoot, we should actually give you some more medication. And then they gave her some more shots, and she said it barely even took effect because they were already in her bone. And I was really mad. Really mad. I didn't do anything to them. I didn't say anything to them. I just seethed silently because on one hand, I was angry that they would do something like that to a patient. On the other hand, and I was angry that they didn't listen to me when I told them that. But on the other hand, I was kind of mad at myself because I should have been more insistent and been more forward in asking, what will you do to take care of it? I shouldn't have just trusted them after I knew that they didn't believe me about the other things. So I was very angry with the whole situation, especially myself. But it was over by that point, so we didn't pursue anything. We just went home to recover together, took pictures the next day of our fat-faced selfies, and had some, milkshakes and good times. And of course, we took the meds that they prescribed that were antibiotics to make sure we don't get infections and stuff. But I don't remember if there was a pain med that they prescribed or not. I don't remember if we took anything after that, because I know with our history of pain meds not working, I don't know if we even bothered with any. But we definitely took the antibiotics. And then I know that they did the sutures the way that they're supposed to, with wrapped around the teeth and extra dangling bits, but the feeling of that was almost as bad as the pain for us, because we have certain sensory things and certain feelings and certain sounds and stuff just bother us to no end, my sister and I both. And that was one of them that was so annoying. And you can be doing other things and still fiddling with things in your mouth. So for me, a mouth sore is worse than a bruise or a scab or anything pretty much anywhere else, because no matter what you're doing, you can still mess with it and it can still bother you. If you know me, you know teeth and eyes are kind of a pet peeve of mine. I watch horror movies and I love horror movies, but when they knock somebody's teeth out, that gets me. That really gets me. So having these things bothering us in our mouth was very annoying and hard to not think about. I know that they took longer to dissolve than they were supposed to, and we made sure we were on top of when it was supposed to dissolve because we wanted them gone. And our gums were healed up, but they were still there, and they started to dissolve, so they were kind of mushy in certain places, but other places still stringy, and the texture just it was bad. So I think both of us, I don't remember, but I definitely ended up cutting some of my sutures out, and I don't think I was supposed to do that, but it was better than the alternative for me. And I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I don't think it had anything to do with my getting an infection in one of my, actually the one that they started with, the same spot. But I don't think that was from what I did, because I've always been prone to infection on this side. When I got my ears pierced both times, I kept getting infections over here, but not over here. And then this was the only one that got infected. from that. And I think maybe it has something to do with the way I sleep. I don't know, but it's always been a thing. Anyway, I could taste it. Like I said, trigger warning, I could taste the pus before I could see it. And it was like, it didn't taste bad, but it was weird, and I knew it wasn't right. So I checked it out and started pushing in different places to see, and then I found the right pocket just full of pus. And I pushed on it and it squeezed all this like creamy, pearlescent almost stuff out into my mouth, and I was like, oh yeah, that's not good. That's not pleasant. But we went for our follow-up appointment with the oral surgeon, so I told him about it, that I knew I was infected there, and I found a pocket of pus that oozed out, and if he would press on it, he would see that. But instead of like pressing around to see where the pocket of pus is, he pressed once on one spot that was nowhere near it and was like, well, I don't see anything, so you're probably okay. And I was like, what? No, I know, I saw it. But he did still prescribe me an antibiotic to be safe, so I was thankful about that. And I went through the whole prescription of antibiotic, and there was still pus coming out. So I don't know if I'm overly tolerant to that too. I don't know. But it took a long time. Like, the bone has to like rebuild to fill in those pockets. I know that, so it's gonna take a long time, but it took a really long time to heal, and throughout at least a year, I kept getting infections in that same spot, and I don't know what's up with that, but it was not pleasant. So, basically, now we know that my sister and I both metabolize medications extremely quickly, and if for any future operations, we're going to make sure the doctor understands that. We're learning to speak up for ourselves. For me, working in retail really helped with learning to actually speak to people. And actually, these videos are like a big step for me, putting myself out there and being brave. And I kind of use it as therapy to, like, just talk it out, tell stories that I've always wanted to share with people. For this one, I have shared it in a very bad way, because if you know me, you'll know I'm not always very socially intelligent, and I don't always realize the volume at which I'm speaking, especially when I'm getting into the discussion. So I was telling a friend about this while we were out to eat, and I went into detail about the pus oozing out of my mouth pocket, and then my now husband nudged me and was like, can you not? And then he like pointed out that everybody else in this small restaurant was silent and not eating. And I was like, oh, shoot, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me. But I hope that anybody watching this video is watching it under the appropriate circumstances, if there are any, but at least not the very inappropriate circumstances. And I hope this has entertained you in some way, or maybe served as a warning for anybody else who has, like, fast metabolism. So, well, I hope your experiences were better, but any experiences you've had that you want to share, I would love to hear about them in the comments, and have a great day.